welcome to another episode of Talks of Life podcast. I'm the host, Brittany Jacobs, and today's guest we have Rachel Brown. She's running for Florida State Senate District 27, so that's here in Lee County. And we're just here to learn a bit more about state politics and how much she's learned, of course, along the way. And I hope you all can pick up some exciting tools to bring your own education and tools of success for understanding what the heck is going on in the world with politics, locally and, of course, throughout the rest of the U.S. So
Yeah, we're really excited to be here. Again, I'm Rachel Brown, running for Florida Senate, and we just, I think Brittany and I and Colby as well are very excited to have kind of a transparency between what's going on in politics and the people who get to vote, and many times are not clear on what all positions are in their local governments, and you hear so much about national news, and it's kind of distracting from what's actually happening in your home, and so we kind of want to bridge the gap between that and make people feel empowered and get people to be involved and let people have more of a voice. So also today we have Colby Brownell, who is my campaign manager and longtime friend. He and I have very similar politics, and Colby's worked on many events at Florida Gulf Coast where we met. Why don't you talk about yourself, Colby?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Colby Brownell. I was hired by Rachel to be her campaign manager for this election, and I want the focus mainly to be on Rachel and the politics and the issues, but I'm about to graduate in December, and my focus of study was events and public stuff. And while I pretty much took a traditional hospitality education and started putting a lot of entrepreneurial things into it, and then started kind of carving my own way to do events around causes and issues and non-profit stuff. So my event pedigree is kind of being directed down the path of nonprofits and doing stuff that benefits people and not necessarily for just pure profit. So working for a campaign like Rachel's, which is very similar to a nonprofit. Everything's donated funds, and it's to get a person in office that's going to fight for the people and what they actually want. Very similar to what I was doing with nonprofits and what I've been kind of gearing up for the last couple of years. And so when the normal event market took a downturn with COVID-19, I thought it was a perfect place to apply my trade with Rachel and help her organize herself and her staff, and kind of just create content, create advertising, create marketing, and help get her message out there. So I think thank you, Brittany, for having us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah,
and I think our discussion today will be centered around kind of transparency and revealing kind of what we've learned so far related to the politics, and kind of a deep dive into this political stuff, and because civics in high school and our normal education's not that good. There's not that much understanding that's instilled in our youth about running for local office and stuff. So I think we wanted to give a little bit of a deep dive today on what the process is like to run for a local office like Rachel Brown in the State Senate.
Yeah, and I just want to let all my viewers know that I am completely unaware and uneducated myself, which is why I thought this was just a perfect opportunity to educate the masses on a great scale of interest that is of course great importance, because it's election year and we need to get out there and make our vote count and support people that are doing good things for our local economy, of course, just our health and safety of environmental regulations, everything that it encompasses. So, Rachel, I would be more than happy for you to just tell us about
under
how.
This mask, by the way, I know you can't tell, but it's an interesting social barrier when you have half your face covered, and so much of our communication is face to face, and reactions, and So that's interesting. But yeah. So yeah, let's talk about politics, local politics.
Everybody's favorite.
So yeah, I do hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I don't care about politics," or "I stay out of politics," And I think over the years, I've just kind of become more educated. My partner was a history major, and he comes from a family that's very, into just reading the newspaper, like being involved in what's happening, like knowing what's happening, very studious type people. And so he's kind of helped me to become more like that. I study environmental engineering, actually. I've been working on a degree at Florida Gulf Coast, working part-time, doing school part-time. But yeah, I've learned a lot of things, from my upbringing. My upbringing was very, very much centered around, I was very much surrounded around conservatives, around Christian conservatives, and a lot of my views have changed since then, definitely revolving around healthcare and access to healthcare. I've learned that there's 7,000 people in Lee County who don't have healthcare, who qualify for Medicaid, but they're not receiving it, even though it's already been federally allocated for. Those 7,000 people are not getting it because we haven't expanded Medicaid in Florida. And so it's not even any cost to the taxpayers. It's already allocated for, we're just not receiving it because of just kind of stubbornness in the current powers, just with, how they want to do things, just like political differences, and, oh, well, I'm not going to do it that way. Okay, well, you have 7,000 people who don't have health care, so just give them the health care that they qualify for. So there's things like that, that are messed up. And I guess I'll go into how I got started with all this. So I got asked to run, actually, by the Democratic Environmental Caucus of Florida. Janelle Christensen, who's the president, called me up and asked me if I would run for this position. I met her at a anthropology club meeting, so it was just it really is all about who you know, and it's just like sometimes by happenstance, My partner was working for Next Gen America, so he was getting involved with he was out of college, and he was getting involved with lots of the on-campus organizations, because they do a lot of tabling, and they know the students, so trying to register voters that way. And
that's what Next Gen is.
Yeah.
Like promotes.
They're
right?
a youth voting organization, so they try to get the youth out to vote. And that starts with registering people to vote. So a lot of times, people are registered to vote in their hometown, and if they live on campus, they don't update their voter address. So then, when the election comes around, they're not going to go home to vote because now it's finals week, and this is more important. And so there's that. So then you lose a lot of the youth vote, and you lose out on a lot of major issues like climate change that young people are thinking about because they're actually going to be experiencing it. And so, so that's that, and I had started the local Sunrise Hub at the college, so I've always been involved in environmental organizing, so I went to this meeting. It was just a club meeting for anthropology. Janelle Christensen has a doctorate in anthropology, so she was the guest speaker that day, and so that's how we just exchanged information. And then months later, she called us up and said, "Hey, we have this whole effort to try to get progressives to run all across Florida." And so we both signed up, and now we're running for office. So
awesome.
It's kind of a long story, but feel free to ask questions.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information.
Before that, you were involved with just getting the word out that voting is important, of course, but as far as your understanding of like our actual politicians at the time,
Yeah.
I mean, you've learned through your course of
Yeah.
a few months of even just starting this, I'm sure.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know much.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, it's hard to. It's like, how do you know this stuff? You know, people knew about the governor race, right? And that was the first time that I think started actually talking about something locally in politics. I was actually working with Students for Sensible Drug Policy before the Sunrise Movement, and we were trying to get recreational cannabis in Florida. So I was doing a lot of petitioning for that, and that was during the Andrew Gillum race. And so I went to what do they call it, a rally? Yeah. So I went to a rally, and you know, I was getting petitions signed, and that was probably like the first local thing that I was kind of involved in. You know, getting the word out about Andrew Gillum, you know, and because he was for recreational marijuana, and so. But yeah, you know, it was very, very recent for me. So my background is in STEM, so it's yeah, but yeah, I am learning along the way a lot, very acceleratedly, like a e to the x graph. But yeah, and Colby's learned a lot too along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've never felt called to actually really like cross the barrier from being an observer to being like really involved, because you know you just don't, a lot of these politicians, whether you agree with their policies or not, you still don't really know them. You don't, you know, you might, you know, it's like there's almost no public candidate I would die on the cross for it. So it's like, oh wait, one of my best friends, you know, that you know has had a very influential impact on my life. Oh, now she's running. Well, you know, I might as well get involved. And yeah, I've kept pretty up to date on local politics. Sometimes more often over the years than national politics, because you know I've Florida born and raised myself, Rachel too. Yeah, and yeah, I think I've known that a lot of politicians locally, Lee County, you know, all over Florida have been conservative Republican, and that's not a bad thing. But I've just noticed over the years they tend to vote in favor of corporate interests, big money interests, and seem to be at odds with water quality, environmental issues, you know, Okeechobee, Everglades, and you know, just they seem to put economic development and money interests over environmental interests a lot of the time. And so, you know, I find I care more about the environment, you know, and everything. Not everything is squeezing the most dollars out of your state as possible. Yeah. And what we've encountered recently with algae blooms, and you know, our waterways getting very, you could say sickly, is that actually begins us losing us money, losing us, you know, jobs and economy. So in the long run, so I think you can care about the environment and put laws in place to protect the environment, yeah, and still maintain a very reasonable economic trajectory.
It's an investment for something that you have science to prove is a worthy investment. So yeah, it's like every time a new governor comes in and they're like, well, I don't want to be the guy to spend X amount of money on algae blooms, on fixing this problem, because it's going to be a lot of money. So I'm just going to do this mediocre policy, you know, just to kind of keep it at bay, mm-hmm, you know, and let the next guy deal with it. And then the next guy comes in and now he has this big problem to deal with. And, you know, and then it's like, oh, now there's more government spending. And it's like, oh, every time, you know, there's more and more government spending. And it's like, you know, if we just do it the right way, you know, sure, it's going to be an investment, but it's for the long haul. So one thing right now is the Department of Permitting. They give permits to anybody who wants to build something or do agriculture, and it doesn't come with checks and balances to check the runoff from those industries. But if it did, then we could actually prevent that runoff from even happening in the first place. So it's about getting the source where it is, preventing, right, the source of pollution, instead of just kind of trying to do like mediocre things to just reroute the water, But that's the thing. Nobody wants to spend the money right away, and but it is an investment worth making because it affects everybody in the county. So.
And when you say that, you mean specifically like the projects that, like the SERP restoration plan. I know that has a lot to do with the funding of like the comprehensive Everglades restoration plan. I think it stands for. So that money is not being allocated. Like it's being allocated. You're saying it's just not being actually utilized to do the projects that's intended to do.
It's just that we need more. We need more than that. And if we're not able to assess agricultural runoff, if we're not able to if the government isn't allowed access to a body of water that is on private property, then they don't have physical evidence to do studies of the runoff that's coming from there. So that's, that creates a problem for everybody. So, because it's like the thing about property is that when runoff from private property gets into waterways, the waterways are going to be public no matter what. And so it's going to affect everybody. So that's just one thing. Another thing that we, that should be done is smarter growth. We don't really plan the city very well. We kind of just, we've allowed urban sprawl to happen. But if we had a centralized sewer system rather than these individual septics, so like on so like you own a home in Santa Carlos Park and you have a septic system, and each individual system is a standalone system, and then that property owner is required to do maintenance on that system. But maybe that guy gets laid off. Maybe that guy has a lot to deal with, and whatever happens, that system isn't checked up on, and now it's leaking into the aquifer, and where we get all of our water from in Lee County. So if we just moved away from individual septics and just centralized it into a sewer system, we do it much more efficiently. So and have experts deal with the leaks, and not have to just leave it up to chance and hope that people will be able to deal with this. People will be able to afford maintenance on their septics. But until then, we do need to be watching them. We do need to be doing maintenance every 2 years. That's not even a requirement right now. So that's another problem.
And they sit in there for years too, like decades almost now. That's wild. So is that where a lot of the pollution is coming from now? Or I know it's
that's
the majority.
That's a smaller amount of the pollution, but it's still there. The majority of the pollution is agriculture.
So that includes our cow farms, cattle.
The Everglades agricultural area is a huge proponent of that. We have a lot of cattle farming, and we use a lot of fertilizers in agriculture that we do. So but if we just were to assess runoff, then we would actually be able to do studies and take preventative measures on that.
Sure. So I have the Clean Waterways Act as something that I wanted to discuss too. I understand that might be a new thing that our governor recently put into place.
Yeah. So that was passed. So it passed in the House, moved up to the Senate, sent it up to the governor, and governor said yes. So now that's in place. It sounds great, Clean Waterways Act.
Wonderful name.
It sounds great, but they have one line that says the people may not establish rights of nature, and many people don't know what rights of nature means. So it sounds like whatever, nature can't vote, so what, but that's not what it means. Rights of nature means a legal right to clean air and clean water for all citizens. So there's been a movement, Rights of Nature, an organization that I'm a part of, I'm on the board of, and so if you establish ecosystem rights, then those rights can be defended in court. The same way that a doctor can be sued for malpractice, a agriculture industry corporation can be sued for malpractice against the water supply. And so if we don't have the legal right for our clean air and water to be defended in court, then any kind of, it's almost like, it's like a non-binding agreement. It's like, okay, well, if you can't be sued for pollution, if a person's right to clean air and water can't be defended in court, then what's the penalty, and how does anything actually get better? So they knew that we were trying to do that, and they snuck in a preventative measure. It's like a ban on plastic bag bans. If you heard about that, some states doing that. There's a ban on sunscreen bans. Key West, I believe, was trying to ban not all sunscreens, but some types of
coral reef safe. That's what they're trying to initiate.
Yes.
Safer.
Yes. So there's some sunscreens that are very destructive to the coral reef, and so people of Key West were like, okay, this is a huge problem. We have this whole tourist economy here, and we also have coral reefs here, and so we need to do something about this. So they were going to put a ban on some sunscreens, the ones that have this chemical that hurts the coral reefs, and so now there's a ban on sunscreen bans because they saw it coming, and so that's what they're doing with Rights of Nature.
So now, when you say they, that would be the people in office at the time, and then they just quickly made the state.
Yes.
Makes this thing, climbs it up through the ladder like you're sharing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the problem, So and that's a problem because you have local municipalities like Key West, right? They're local, so they don't have as money as the state government does. But the state, because they're more heavily funded, they have more resources, and they're able to put together these political actions. And so it's like they steal the basketball and throw it in, So the little guy, whatever the little guy was working on, it doesn't matter because the state just overrided it. Yeah. Before it could even have been
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to further clarify on the point of banning on bans is like, obviously plastic bags and small one-use plastics are a huge contributor to pollution. The ocean is just filled with single-use plastics, bottles and bags and things. And some people, some cities and municipalities have an interest to, for their stores, their businesses, to ban plastic bags and make them use paper and other more sustainable bags. But then a higher authority, like a state government, will say, no, we're going to ban bans. So we're going to make it illegal to make that illegal.
So that's what they call home rule, is being able to rule from your home. People in Tallahassee shouldn't really be telling us, what to do in our home because we see it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's that's what home rule, if you ever hear that term, that's what that's about. They're trying to prevent our home rule. And actually in our Florida Constitution, it's very, very pro home rule. So it's interesting, to see all those bans coming in now. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that it's more and more because it's almost like it's an indicator. If there's a ban on a ban, it means that it was anticipated, right? And if it's anticipated, it means some local municipality is seeing something happen and they're trying to do something about it.
You're just trying to help the sea turtles and, collect waste, but go figure that, I guess the corporations have anything to do with, that, or at that
You
point?
probably, if there was a sunscreen company that was making a lot of money in Key West, I would think that they would have been behind that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A PAC, a political action committee, is allowed to give more money to a candidate than an individual is, and so more money and resources altogether. And so what they probably did is made a PAC. Anybody can make a PAC. And so then they say, okay, well, we're going to save money in the long run because this is going to allow us to keep selling our product without having to change our formula at all. And then so yeah, it's the market stepping in and saying, well, we need our product to keep selling there. So, and not everybody knows about the coral reef, right? Like, people are like, well, I don't want to get skin cancer, so I'm just going to buy sunscreen, right? And I want to buy the cheapest sunscreen that I can. So, and not everybody's a scientist, right? I don't even know what the chemical is. Yeah, I need to find that out. But, it's like
Oxybenzone, actually.
Oxybenzone.
Yeah.
So
Little shout out to Sunny Q Sunscreen. She was another gal that I had on here, Alexandra Quillen, but she created a coral reef sunscreen. She actually graduated from FGCU as well, and did that as her entrepreneurial project.
Did she go through the runway program?
Runway program. You know what? I know it's hard to do that, but if you can just produce the product, create the demand, then eventually toxic sunscreens will be wiped off the market, right?
That's
in a perfect world. That's how it looks. People taking back their power and just saying, okay, if we can't do it this way, then what's the alternative? Literally creating something that is better. Yeah, so there is, I guess collectively, historically, you could say, I guess that's how the state has become how it is, right? We want to point fingers at certain people regulating things, but the truth of the matter, behind the scenes, they're just doing their own thing because they have their own interest or really corporate interest, if you will,
Yeah, it's really about once you get in power, you have to get reelected, and it's a stable. Well, I don't know. It's interesting. It's the easiest way to keep your job when you're elected is to look out for whoever has the most money, because those people will donate to your campaign later. And campaigns, a campaign that has like $500,000 or more is going to be able to pay for TV ads. Whereas if you only have like $45,000 or less, you're not going to be able to pay for TV ads. And TV ads, you can run those. If you have a TV ad, it runs everywhere.
No, I think that just shows that, if anything, money truly is in politics, and it's just getting the right people in their voices out, because hey, grassroots here, doing the best you can with what you've got. And I respect the hell out of it, because I could never. I've been told many times, oh, you'd be perfect. It's like, nope, not for me. I don't want to take on that level of responsibility or commitment either. But I think it's really badass that you've chosen to take on this role, and you're very humbled by the whole learning experience, and again, being transparent about that is so awesome, because that's what we need, right? People to tell us more of the truth around here, and feel like as a native Floridian as well, I've been pretty clueless to local politicians. I know I actually am registered to vote in my hometown, so I totally understand with the struggles of getting people to vote in the right place, of course, wherever they're located. But jokingly, I just pick whatever name that I think is the best when I go to vote back home, which is really wrong. And, I think a majority of people do. They've never heard the names. They might have seen it on a street sign or whatever case, but it's something that is important, of course, and I think this is showing firsthand, hey, this is what they're doing, so this is what we need to do as more conscious individuals who want to make a positive difference.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people, there's so many people like that, and it's just because, it's easy if you have money. It's easy to put out a sign and it's easy to put out ads, but it's difficult and it takes a lot longer to talk to people and explain policies. It takes a lot longer. It takes a lot longer to actually get to know people, to go to events in the community. A picture is faster. Than going to an event, going to a protest, hearing what people are saying.
So how has the race been? I'm sure it's been, with social distancing and everything. What has your experience been with online calls and meetings and such? Has it been?
It's kind of a game changer for everybody. There's still, I heard a lot of the Republicans are actually door knocking, with no protective gear. So it's happening, and it's like it's almost like when Bernie dropped out, it was because of COVID. It's because he didn't want to assist in spreading a pandemic, and okay, so let's shift gears towards helping the people. Okay, well, but now so it's a sacrifice, it's like you have to try to think really, really hard. How do I keep my morals, and how do I do the right thing, and how do I get my name out there, And so what I've done is I've purchased 100 face shields and 100 masks that say, that have my logo on it, Rachel Brown for Florida Senate. And so I'm going to have, and I'll be purchasing lots of hand sanitizer. And so I'll still have door knocking, but I'll have very thorough safety equipment, require that people wear it at all times. If we ever do an in-person event, which we're not close to doing because it would require so much strategy to do it right.
Yes.
We'll definitely take precautions, but it definitely is a game changer because door knocking is the biggest part of campaigning. Maybe actually people watching might not know what door knocking is. It's basically what it sounds like. Canvassing, also, you've heard it. You see somebody walk up to your door and say, "Oh, hi, I'm with the Bernie Sanders campaign, blah, blah, blah. Like, are you registered to vote? Are you planning on voting? This is my candidate," and so you literally bring the information to people's doors. And so that's effective. Phone calling is not as effective, but that's what we're going to have to do, a lot of phone calling, texting, and we have been doing a lot of online events.
Yes.
We did a forum. There's been a lot of virtual forums. Different organizations will hold forums. I did one for the League of Women Voters. They give you a minute to answer each question, and they have questions submitted by the public. So, and then the beauty of this is that it's recorded and it's online forever. So that's something that was actually, that's never been. Usually if you can't make the forum, okay, great, 50 people go to the forum. There's over 350,000 people in the county. So now that it's online, there's definitely a way to use that to our benefit. So it's different, but we're trying to work with it and make it to our benefit.
Another thing I know that you might be pretty interested in providing more solutions to is our public transportation.
Yes.
As a native, of course, you understand that it's very
so bad.
not efficient.
Yeah.
I've personally never rode the Lee train, but
right. There's like 2 people on it, and anytime you see is this actually functioning? There's like 2 people on there. Like there's one guy waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
I'll
quickly chime in before I'll let Rachel, release the Kraken. I've been on the local transit system multiple times in my life, not very much, but my father who lost his license, he used it a lot over the last 10, 15 years. And so he has so many stories of like he would get on a bus, in North Myers, like right on the edge of Cape Coral, and he would try to go to Fort Myers Beach or something, and he would get on the bus like at 1, and he wouldn't be to Fort Myers Beach until like 3:30. So like, 2 hour plus bus rides to go from, North Fort Myers to like Fort Myers Beach, and two depending where you're going, hour, 90-minute, 2 hour bus commutes because of all the stops and how they're inefficiently weaving through each other. It can be multiple hours when if you had your own car and you're allowed to drive, and et cetera, be a 40-minute drive, 45 minutes. So it's like, sometimes the public transport can be 2 to 3 times longer than just a normal car drive. And so that for people that don't have access to cars, can't drive for whatever reason, a inefficient public transportation system is a real crushing, heavy thing for them to wait on. Like, imagine having to be at work at 9 a.m. and you have to get on a bus like at 6:45 to be on time for work, depending where you work. So I see a lot of I know of people, and I see it being a problem for many people.
Yeah, a lot of people. I always felt when I was in high school, right? It's like before you have a job, you have to get experience to get a job. But how do you do that without having a job? And it's kind of the same as having a car. It's like before I can go to work, I have to have transportation to get to work. But how am I going to pay for transportation without being able to work first? So it's crippling to a lot of people's lives, not having a efficient public transit, And it's one of those things that I think can just feed 3 birds with 1 bird feeder in a way. If you have a better transit, and this would be a state level thing, right, that I could work on, not just for Lee County, but for all of the state of Florida. If we did that, think about all the cars when it's just one person driving to work, and they could very easily take the bus and not have to pay for gas, and now our carbon emissions are lower, right? Not have to worry about parking. Right, if you get to work and then it's like at FGCU, I know people just circle around over and over because it's just always full, so it'll solve so many issues, solve issues of poverty and people transitioning to different jobs, transitioning from not having a job to a job, transitioning from being homeless to being able to work so they can pay rent. You're homeless and there's no public transportation, so you have to walk. It's something that we need to do better, and we totally can. So this guy Tom Cannell, oh man, I'm probably saying his last name wrong.
Sorry, Tom.
Sorry, Tom. Tom endorsed me actually, because I told him that and Nora Demers from FGCU told me about him and his website. And so what he did was he used to work for Lee-Tran. He designed a better route for Lee-Tran that would be able to pick up more people, just be more efficient, and it's no extra cost. So, but it just hasn't been picked up. So that kind of thing that just it's like why not?
Because it just makes sense, right? Again, you don't need a degree or even a full brain, just half of one. You might understand that.
Yeah. So we looked it up. Thomas Cannell. Yeah, I was saying it.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So when is the time to vote? Can you tell us?
Yes, November 3rd.
We should get out there?
November 3rd is my election.
The general election.
The general election.
Same time as you vote for president.
Yes. And there is another election before that on August 18th.
Primaries.
The primary. So what happens is from each party, you have the Republican, Democrat Party, somebody runs, sometimes multiple people run. In my case, I'm the only Democrat running, so I'll automatically be on the ballot in November. However, there are 2 Republicans running against each other right now. Whoever wins the August 18th primary will go against me in November. So there are some August 18th primaries that I want to mention. Jacqueline McMiller is running for mayor, and I've met her at some of the protests and gatherings in Lee County surrounding Black Lives Matter and police brutality, and so she's actually a social worker, and she's running for office now, and she's been super super involved in the community and just really helpful in getting the word out for people to go out and vote, and talking about everything that's happening in the community. So she's great. I definitely am going to vote for her, Jacqueline McMiller. Also, we have a congressional race. There's two Democrats, David Holden and Cindy Banyai.
And that's down in Collier County.
That's a congressional. So that's Olive District. So this is confusing to explain. So it's like let's see. So the same way that there's the House and the Senate and then the governor on a state level, there's the House, the Senate, and the president on a federal level. And so David and Cindy are running on a federal level. So it covers a lot of Florida,
yes,
including Lee County. But it covers a lot of Florida. So, and I don't know exactly the district boundaries of that. But Cindy Banyai has been really helpful in my campaign, just like giving me lots of tips and just helping us get the word out that we're running. And she has a podcast too, so she had us on her podcast. So she's definitely the person that I'm supporting for that race. And then we also have, like I said, there's the House positions within the Senate. We should have a total different podcast about this, like just explaining like all these intricacies because it's so much. But there's people running for House positions. And so there's maybe like 5 of them. There's Anselm Weber, who's his district is within my district. There's Josh Lopez, whose district is within my district also. He's in Cape Coral. Anselm is on Fort Myers Beach. There's Sean Williams, who's within my district. And Danica, I forget her last name, but there are lots of people that you can look out for. Those people don't have primaries. I'm kind of scatterbrained right now, but those people actually don't have primaries. I was talking about primaries before. But anyway, look at August 18th and November 3rd. But you can vote for me on November 3rd.
Great. Mentioned that there was 2 people running kind of like as your opponent potentially right now. Mm-hmm. That's Ray Rodriguez and Heather Fitz.
Fitz and Hagen. Okay. Yes.
So I know I've heard Heather's name before. I know that she came to FGCU when I was doing the Clean Water Rally, and she was kind of like supposed to be this good Republican, I guess, in House.
Okay.
Is she kind of still leading the way with that, or not necessarily?
It's so interesting.
Because my brain thinks Republicans just don't give a crap about.
Yeah. So you got to look at their voting record. If you look on Vote Spy, if you just go on Google, look up Vote Spy, it'll take you to this amazing website. It tells you voting history of everybody who's already been in power. Heather and Ray have voted the same on 32 out of 34 environmental bills. And so they're really not different. Heather knows when to show up for things, I've heard, and from what I've seen, but her voting record just does not reflect what she's saying. She doesn't talk about rights of nature. She doesn't talk about anything specific. So, she'll say clean water, but so will Ray, and so, no, she's really not. She's not much better. I think she's better at being a politician, doing the politician thing, showing up to some places and then showing up to other places. But interesting thing about Heather is she has not showed up to any of the forums that I've been on, and all the candidates all the candidates are invited. And so it's interesting because, like I said, now we have them recorded and they're online forever. And so your answers to a certain question can be used as evidence in the future. And that's just interesting to me. She's a lawyer by trade, so it makes sense that she wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. So, because then she can't just say one thing here and then say another thing here.
She's keeping herself safe.
Yes. So wow. I'm not surprised that she is not showing up to forums. But
I guess that's not necessarily a requirement, but I feel like that looks kind of poorly.
Yeah, it's
you're trying to.
Yeah, it's not a requirement, but it is a political tactic. And actually, sadly, my partner Anselm, who is running for State House position, State House 76, showed up to a forum, and neither of his opponents, his Republican opponents, showed up. And that means that they can't do the forum. So somebody like Anselm and I, who are newcomers in the political world, need these forums to be able to have a platform because we can't pay for platforms. And so for the opponents to not show up, it's a political strategy. See, because then Anselm can't answer these questions to the public. Anselm can't get his name out because the other ones weren't there. So, so there's.
So they like canceled the forum at that point, or
yes. There are a lot of communities, a lot of different organizations. If to be as fair and equitable and not biased, they only will hold the forum if both a Republican and a Democrat shows up. So if no Republican shows up, sometimes they just, sorry, thank you for coming, but we're not going to give you any time. So
actually, with the one I was talking about with the League of Women Voters, their rule is, and they're pretty good. I don't want to sound like I'm talking about the League of Women Voters, but their rule was it has to be at least 2 candidates. So even if it was Heather and Ray that had shown up, they would have still done the forum.
Yeah.
For my election, or if Anselm's 2 other opponents had shown up, they would have done it.
Yeah. Every forum community will probably have a little different thing, but it can be the case that you just completely lose the opportunity.
And it's never like rescheduled. It's because it's supposed to give the community a chance to ask questions. That's like what it's designed to be. Yes.
Yeah, and those questions were submitted. So that happened, and so they do have to reschedule it, but then again, it's left up to if at least 2 candidates want to show up. So, but there are other forums to go on, and now that everything's virtual, it does make it easier to share videos. Now that if you get it recorded once, you saying something, it's good. So there's other forums too, but that is something
to watch out for.
Yeah,
be mindful of.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's the world of politics for you.
Yeah.
Who knows what's happening at the greater scene of our federal level, but again, I've always valued getting involved at a local level and making a difference there because that's where you're living, eating, breathing, and all that good stuff. So, fight for your rights when you have the chance to. And, we definitely are in a very interesting time in the world where people are waking up to understanding that, and they want transparency. And I like that you shared the votespy.org.
Yeah, VoteSpy. Yeah, I just remember. I don't think that's what it's called, but it says VoteSpy on the website, so I know if you Google that, it'll come up. And
pretty much all voting records for any elected officials public records. So you can find it on government. You can find some records of votes on government websites. All these different things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also something to watch out for is sometimes, like the Clean Waterways Act, you hear it and you think it's a good thing, but it's not. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah,
sometimes the title of the bill is just a beautiful sounding utopian, like, sunny rainbows and love for all, the bill. And then you actually read it, and it's like,
thunder, lightning, hurricane.
So it's like you're not gonna be able to just be, I guess, woke, of local politics right away. It's kind of just a process.
You got to do your homework. You got to put some time into it. They don't make it easy to understand these things. You have to.
Honestly, if you if you even just follow some local officials on their social media, there's a lot of that, and they've been using that even a lot more now with COVID. But if you follow, find out whoever your House representative, your Senate representative is, follow them on social media. That's an easy way to
stay on top of what their discussions
and
are.
See how people react to things with each other, and pay attention not to just what one person is saying, but what the discussion is. Yeah, that's good.
Because of course it baffles me as an environmentalist that some people don't care about having clean water, or fresh air, all of the above, but they're also just not understanding of the complexity of like we're all collectively like part of this problem. So it's like something that does need to be figured out. But being ignorant to the fact is just not the solution. So
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like inevitably we're going to have to spend on climate resilience, and it's just a matter of time. The longer that we prolong it, the bigger the problem is going to be. And so really, when somebody doesn't take their own term of leadership as the time to do something, they are creating problems that will affect all of Florida with the environment, because an ecosystem is a system. So eventually we're going to have to spend, and it's going to be a lot, and it's going to hit our economy really, really, really bad. And so the sooner that we do it,
the better we'll be.
The better we'll prevent that from happening.
Yeah.
So we
so
don't want that.
Some of that would look like, I guess lifting. Isn't there still like a ban or strict regulation for our solar power initiative?
Oh yeah. There's
our Sunshine State,
Our Sunshine State.
People think
not a lot of more solar panels in the northeastern states than there is in Florida.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That is very wild.
Yeah.
That's a really good example of something that's super backwards. Yeah, definitely. And there was actually a bill that to put solar panels on schools that was rejected. I don't know if it was by which power it was rejected by, but it didn't pass. But we do have like a tax exempt program for businesses that do this. So
it's a little something, but there's so much more that we can do to
all the
support
public schools.
Support solar in Florida.
Right. And then think about the taxpayer money that goes to paying for the school's electric bill, and if we just got it from the sun, right? Even so, it's a win-win for everything. So it really just comes down to money and politics. That we have to change how that whole thing goes. So like ranked choice voting is a really good way to be able to change voting process.
What's it called?
Ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice. 1, 2, 3. Rank.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's like you pick your favorite candidate, and then your second favorite, your third favorite, instead of just and opening and making it everything like an open primary. So you don't just have to vote like within a party. So that's two different things: open primaries and ranked choice voting combined. There's been a lot of research that has shown that will represent the people more and
more representative government.
Absolutely.
When you don't have to all crowd together into two siloed groups, like we have to us 50 people have to agree a certain way, and us 50 people have to agree a certain way. No, can't have any dissenting opinions. One thought. And sometimes that process leads to pretty mediocre, milquetoast, average candidates. Like, I was the least offensive candidate. I'll be the party candidate. And so people with exciting ideas that actually bring change to people's lives, those candidates usually, many elections all over the country, fall to the wayside because they don't have this broad, bland appeal. Yeah,
something that I learned recently is that so it's hard to get an endorsement when you're low funded because
it's just like having a job and needing to get to work. It's like they don't want to endorse me because no one else has endorsed me, and so where do I get my first endorsements?
Right, exactly. So, and it's if you don't have it's like an organization. If you do a questionnaire for an organization, and they review it, and one of the questions will be how much money have you raised, or they can just look you up on your Ballotpedia and it'll say how much. That's public record. So, and then they say, oh wow, this person has only raised $4,000. I'm not going to support them because that shows me that they haven't had very much public support.
Which equates to they're not.
Right. And so, maybe I won't support them. Maybe we won't endorse them. But an endorsement shows the public that they are a candidate that is liked by this organization, if it's a reputable like Sierra Club, for example. So it is it's a game of chicken. Who's going to do what first, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so somebody who has raised $4,000 at this point, maybe they're, for whatever reason, really low funded. Mm-hmm. I've raised more than that, but
we have raised more than that.
Yeah, so let's just say that $4,000. Okay, so I mean that could be so many $3 donations. That could be like I'm my own treasurer, and so I have to do my own reports, every 2 weeks reports, and most of the people that donate to me
are
unemployed. And so
when you donate, they usually almost pretty much always ask like, what's your employment, what's your occupation, to kind of keep a record of like what kind of industries are donating to certain candidates. Yeah. And so Rachel, majority of her votes contributions so far are from people that are currently unemployed.
Right. So it's like you're, I don't know. I think that says.
It says a lot.
That says a lot.
The people that don't even have income are like, oh, Rachel, please take a couple bucks, Rachel. We really believe that you're fighting for us.
Yeah. It really, like, when I see a $3 donation, it really makes me really happy. Because that means that somebody pulled out their wallet and gave me $3, you know, whatever they could. It honestly, like, I mean, sure, $1,000 it goes a longer way. But
and 1,000 is the maximum individual can give.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think realistically speaking, though, I mean, a lot of people are facing those issues. Like, I wanted to support like these initiatives, but I have to support this roof over my head. So how do you find the balance between that? Like, it's almost impossible, and you know, it's still challenging for me to understand where the future of this year is going to be, you know, move towards. So I mean, I'm technically still like unemployed. Tried getting a job, but it's like you make more money collecting unemployment, so why would you not?
That's so true. Yes. Oh, yeah, my roommate, we're people that I know that are in, I know so many people that are in the same situation. And that just shows you, like, livable wage standards. If we have a livable wage, then you won't have so many people on unemployment. Sure. Of course, with COVID, it's different. It's a different scenario right now, but in general, you know,
it exposes how underpaid many Americans were.
How fragile, it can be.
Like, a government program is paying them more than what their full-time job was.
And I just learned today that EMS, people that work in ambulances, they get paid $12 an hour. They're saving people's lives, and they only get paid $12 an hour. You know, that's just a fun thing that I learned today. Not fun,
is it that low?
Interesting.
My sister's an EMT, so I wonder if.
I'm sure there's ranges.
Like, sure, no, once you're like lieutenant and all that fancy title stuff, but no, I mean, you're putting yourself at risk 100%. I mean, you're running into fire, burning houses or cars, whatever the case might be. I mean, same deal goes for like teachers. You know, they're not paid enough.
Oh yeah, many teachers are very
basically
underpaid.
Providing the daycare for you. You know, the training and therapy for your children sometimes, and they're just not reciprocated in the proper payment. And I mean, it's super unfortunate to know that that's again a reality for so many people. I mean, it's really everywhere in the world, right? It's a really challenging thing to, I guess, be ahead of yourself constantly, like try to save money when, again, everything exactly costs money, and there's no free public transportation to maybe alleviate that expense for someone, you know, not a car payment and insurance, gas, etc. So there's definitely solutions out there, and that's another reason why I started this podcast, to get those messages out there. Like, hey, there's people out there that are, again, concerned. They are pretty practical in providing solutions, and you know, it takes conversations and things like this to keep more of the people, you know, on the same wavelength of understanding what in the world's going on.
Yeah, so that's so cool. I'm so happy that you have this podcast. Like, I want to go back, and I just found out about it, so I want to go back and listen to the ones that you've done already.
Yes.
So
definitely.
And I definitely want to be on more.
No, I'm open for everyone and anyone.
Part
at this
2,
point.
3.
And I think as your race becomes, I guess, closer to a finish,
that'll be so
it'll just be really exciting to see how things have transitioned and what's new for you. So I'd love to have you on for part 2. So stay tuned, folks. All right, I just want to go over my list once more and make sure that we hit all the pretty important. So we've, Environmental Pollution, Clean Waterways Act. real estate. I don't know if you know much about that, but as a native Floridian, I just feel like there needs to be a cap on how many people work, like continuing to allow move here. So can you speak about that?
I agree. You know, native Floridian. I've seen Naples just be clear-cut new real estate development, roads always under construction, and that just goes into, you know, we need better city planning. Yeah, real estate, something interesting that people should know is it is illegal to cut mangroves. But if you pay a fine, it is not illegal. Mm-hmm. And so a real estate company has enough money for the fine. And so they just pay the fine and do it. Yeah. So that's another structural thing that we need to change. If something's illegal, there's a reason it's illegal, you know? And I agree there are things that shouldn't be illegal that are illegal, but we need to not allow a bypass system. So.
Well, I know same thing goes for turtles, or the gopher tortoises.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like if they're on land and you want to build there, you just pay X amount of dollars and that nest is moved.
I remember you being really passionate about the when University Village first was, like, before it even got built.
The whole road
talking
thing.
About it. Yeah.
Because again, that school is priding themselves on being, you know, green and so sustainable, and you know, part of my legacy was to change the mission statement back to its original paragraph statement and what the school was founded upon, which is, again, practicing and promoting sustainability, which is huge because that impacted my, you know, I guess, path and my life choices after that once I was aware of some of the problems we were facing locally and globally. So
exactly, and people still reference that in colloquium in classes, that some girl back a couple years ago, she fought.
Talk about that.
Literally, multiple professors talk about some girl. I think her name was Brittany or something, and she was like, "Oh yeah." They found that they were going to remove practice out of the mission, and you know, she fought to keep it in. And it was kept in, and so you know, you students have that same power. You know, be like that girl from back then. So speaking to that girl, I was wondering, like, just if you could, like, what would be like the quick bullet points of what was the process of how you went through that.
I would love to share that because I had not a damn clue what I was doing. One of my professors, it was an environmental communication class, and we were just talking about the subject of greenwashing. And after the class was over, she kind of she knew that I was really passionate about, you know, the concept of sustainability and just getting the right message out. And at the time, I was a student naturalist too, so you know, I'm putting my time and energy into trying to educate other students. But beyond that, she said, "Hey, like, are you aware that the mission statement is like changed or is changed?" I think at that point it had changed. It was up on the website, and they did a whole bunch of transformation and transitioning of the words, but specifically moved. So again, originally it was practice and promote sustainability. Now it was just saying that they promoted sustainability. So in my ears and mind, I was like, this is just what I learned about greenwashing. Like, this university is changing into basically to be a business school, you know, to recruit those types of people. And I was like, I can't sit with this. Like, I've got to make a difference. And then that's when I talked to Dr. Rocca about it. And she was like, you gotta write a petition. I'm like, wait, what? How do you even do that? Go to the library, just write what it is that you're trying to do. And I did exactly that. Like, on behalf of the students of FGCU, this is a freaking problem and no one knows about it. So then from there, I took it to Senate and basically was just like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm this, that, the other. You know, I've never seen these people, but they are change makers in a sense. And basically, just by show of hands, who knows about this problem? And nobody knew. Okay, who cares? And basically everybody. So at that point, I knew I had Army to support my mission and try to get that change back to what it was. And the tactics I did was just get student signatures. And it brought enough traction for the newspaper, the Eagle newspaper, to put it on the headlines. And from there, the board of trustees, they knew they were caught. It gives me excitement because I'm like, hell yeah, and all of the responses like, oh, it was a mishap, it was an accident, we didn't.
Oversight.
No, you don't just accidentally.
Oh, no.
No, thank you. But it's unfortunate, but that's why I have a very strong love-hate relationship with that school, because it did bring me to a really understanding place of how gentle our environment was here, and how unaware I truly was, not connected to it, I suppose. But becoming more connected to the space and the trees and the land that is still protected here, it was just like my duty and my right. To do that.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I did it. And
Yes.
Fast forwarding today, as they were speaking of, I guess there was a class maybe created preserving the mission statement of FGCU.
Well, I took a class with Dr. Maria Rocca called, in honors, it was called Living the Sustainability Mission by Honors Leadership.
Okay.
And I took it one semester. And that was a huge class. I partnered with Marissa Palace right before she graduated, and she was working on creating a pretty much a Green New Deal for FGCU before Green New Deal was a popular term. Like we wanted to make a climate action plan or a CAP, which many other universities and at higher education places, you can find them. Just go to their website. CAP. Here's our CAP. And it's like this 40-page document. We're like, okay, we build our buildings to this code. We do our maintenance and fertilizing by this, and it's like, I know FGCU does have some documentation and some rules and regulations. I've seen some of them, but we didn't have something as rigorous or as formally formed for public consumption for people to review as a climate action plan. And so me and Marissa, kind of worked on that for a semester, and she graduated, and it didn't really go anywhere after that, unfortunately. But that experience was very enlightening for me to work with Marissa and look at this CAPS and look at all these other universities and sit on environmental professors and administration meetings and hear what they've been working towards and for years and years, and not finding much success, finding a lot of resistance with budgets and with the direction some people in the administration wanted to head. And so there's many people. There have always been, currently are, and probably will be, hopefully, for the future, people that care about sustainability deeply, and the environment deeply at FGCU, but their hands are tied. And so, I discovered that a lot when I was doing that class, which I guess was maybe partially inspired by Rocca when you did your thing. It's all connected.
A lesson I had really learned from getting that all basically successfully noticed and everything, put back to where it needed to be. Mm-hmm. I really felt like I could make a difference as an individual, and if I could just spark that inspiration into everybody else, hey, one individual can just do it by collective, gathering your people, and then more people, more power is what I've always loved as a concept, because it's the truth, and the more people that
power
can
to
get
the
behind.
people.
Yeah, power to the people.
And isn't that your tagline? People first.
Kind of one of them.
Politics.
Yeah, we're working on we have a couple different taglines. Defy the norm has been a dream tagline of mine for a long time. And right now on the website we have people first, politics second. But I'm not really 100% about, because it's power to the people. I say that a lot, in forums, because it's a historically known
call to action.
Yeah, all power to all the people and power to the people.
We're brainstorming all types of advertising and
I'm allowed
marketing
to have
slogans.
more than one, I think.
Oh yeah, multiple slogans.
It's your campaign. You do what you want, right? There's no regulations behind that.
Yeah. That's actually advice Cindy Banyai recently gave me, is run your campaign
the way you want.
Yeah.
That's awesome advice.
Absolutely. And so, I'm glad we got into FGCU and, a little bit of what you did back in the day that's still talked about in classrooms. A university, I'm about to graduate, and, Rachel's been a long participant student, and, to put her finishing her environmental degree on pause to run for this, because she thought it was so much more important to raise these issues and fight this battle in for the state senate than try to be the student at the same time. So but she cares deeply about the environment, and she's definitely going to pursue environmental engineering. Whether she wins or not, she's going to keep running with that. But right now, she's focused on this campaign. And university for all the college students, which I imagine we'll definitely have a lot of college students watching this. A university is pretty much a microcosm of the macrocosm of your city government or state. So like pretty much every university has a student government, and like Brittany here, she made a petition to gather people's support at a university that's students, and demonstrated that so many people cared about this, and it was the change that they desired to happen. The same thing happens at the city, county, and state level, and even the federal level. Make a petition. Get people to put their name behind what you're fighting for, and if you get enough people and enough voices, enough votes, you can get the government to cave in to meet your demands. And so the people, if they come together, they can accomplish anything.
Yes. Amen. Yeah, that's where I was trying to go with that. But micro scale and macro scale of like what level of power we can create, and it doesn't matter what, big or small. It's just getting the people involved, right?
Yes. With that said, if you're watching and you want to volunteer for my campaign, please do. We need help making phone calls to voters and just getting the word out that we have a progressive running. And if you don't have money, that's okay. Volunteers are so much more valuable than money. Rachel Brown for Florida Senate. It's RACHEL. Brown, like the color, and then FOR, Florida Senate. And everything's all spelled out. There's no FL, there's no number 4. It's all spelled out. Rachel Brown for Florida Senate. That's my Gmail, and that's my .com.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then on Instagram, it's Rachel Diane Brown, and then on Twitter, it's Rachel D. Brown.
Okay, awesome. Well, I look forward to doing this again in the next few weeks and months, or whoever it leads to.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Again, very thankful to have you guys here today in real life, and
Absolutely.
happy and healthy still, everybody. So get out there and vote, because your vote does matter as well as your voice. So get connected, stay connected, and together we'll make a difference, y'all.
Yes. 1, 2, 3 team. Yes.